talk about is love languages. And, most of us, if you haven't heard of them, you're going to find out what it is. But some of us have heard of love languages. Feel free to comment on this as you're watching the replay, whether you have or you haven't. I love to kind of have you guys connect, send, comment, honestly, comment, because I'll always reply and other people will reply. And it just kind of gets if you have a question, then chances are then someone else probably has the same question. So do it up. If you don't feel comfortable, just send a DM to me or one of the admins and we'll totally answer your questions. So yeah, love languages. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you know anything about love languages, you know that kind of all people tend to fall into a few different categories of what's called love languages. And it is that we kind of give and receive love in a specific way. And sometimes this is to do with how we were shown love as a child. And sometimes it can affect, make us show and receive love in the same way, but sometimes it can also make us change the way that we kind of show and receive love with friendships, but, mainly partnerships. And with our children too. So it's a really cool way to just get really clear on how you receive love so that you can communicate that to your partners. And then you can also be able to kind of evaluate the way that your partners receive love and adjust the things that you need to, because sometimes it's just as simple as realizing that not everyone receives or gives love in the same way that we do. Okay. And sometimes, we think that our partner doesn't appreciate us or doesn't love us, but they show it in a different way. And so that's why I really wanted to do this. It's simple, but it's super effective. And I really, really love it. As soon as I learned about it, it was something that really just kind of changed my world in a lot of ways. I kind of use this with my daughter, and I will let you know there's a link that you can go to actually take the test to find out what your love language is. Okay, so there are things that we naturally do to show love and affection to other people. Okay, and when it's important to be aware of this, because when our we call emotional love tank is kind of on empty, then we often act in different ways than we normally would, right? We're more likely to criticize our partner, we're more likely to withdraw from them, or we're more likely to use harsh words and tones, and so many things, so many wonderful things can be done by just kind of learning about the love languages. And when we're able to love our partner in their way, we actually fill their love tank. And if any of you have kids, you might have heard about your bucket, right? It's kind of the same thing as the love tank. So when we're loving our partner in their way, then their love tank is overflowing, and then they're more likely to love us our way, right? And we can solve some huge problems. Not saying that this is the answer to everything, okay? So let's talk about the 5 different love languages. We'll start off with words of affirmation. So what that means is it's things like compliments. If you need to be complimented, and not in the way of oh my God, you're so beautiful, which who doesn't enjoy that? It's in a way of thank you for making me dinner. Thank you for this beautiful, delicious dinner that you cooked on the stove for me or for our family. That's a compliment. Thank you for, leaving me that little note, or thank you for always, doing this, and this, right? XYZ. It's compliments. It's words of affirmation. It's showing verbally your appreciation for your partner and the things that they do for you or what you appreciate about them. I love how kind you always are to strangers, or, that kind of stuff, right? So if that doesn't make sense, then feel free to kind of comment and I can elaborate further, but I feel like generally that's an easy way. So it may seem very trivial, but it is a really massive thing. So, for example, I like words of affirmation. So if I do cook dinner, even though, let's say me and my partner that I live with have worked all day, both of us. I come home, I'm taking care of, my daughter, I'm cleaning, I'm cooking a nice, nutritious home-cooked meal. We sit down and eat it. I get up, I clean all the dishes, and then I don't get appreciation, then I'm going to be upset. But if I get appreciation, then I'm like, I'm good. I feel appreciated. You're complimenting me, you're saying thank you, the meal was delicious. That does it for me. And I'm like, and I'll do it happily when I have that like affirmation, that thank you, that compliment, that like, it was so delicious, you're so wonderful, right? Okay, so then the next one we'll talk about is quality time, which again is pretty self-explanatory. So this is about spending quality time kind of undistracted by our phones, by social media, by the TV, games, whatever the case may be, like actually spending quality time, doing things together that you both enjoy. Sometimes we will need to do things with our partners that are more their interest than ours, but it's about spending the time with them and showing them if this is their love language, that you care, that their interests and what they want to do are important to you, that they're valid. That one's pretty self-explanatory too. There's kind of some notes to make about the quality time that is like a bit on the side, that kind of like I said about the no technology, that kind of thing, making eye contact while you're doing quality time, like actually paying attention. Your body language is open and accepting of what you guys are doing, of what your partner's saying, of that kind of thing, right? So it's just being present with your partner. Okay, gifts. So, like, this is not necessarily like, oh, I need to have these like lavish gifts all the time, which is usually kind of like your automatic reaction when you hear gifts. But it's like things that don't necessarily cost money or cost very much. And so just think, if your partner were, they receive love by receiving gifts, then think of like, 10 really fabulous things that you can give that don't cost money. Gifts can be, that you made something for them, or you wrote them something, like you wrote them a poem, or you wrote them a letter. It can be so many different little things, that it doesn't have to be, that you went to the store and bought this like, super lavish gift. Yes, you can give physical gifts, you can give flowers, even if you pick a flower. It's for people who receive love through gifts, it's about the fact that when you did that, when you got that, you were thinking of them. That's what it's about for them. It's like that gift symbolizes your love for them, because you were thinking about them enough to want to do that. Okay? It's like I said, writing, a card, or you brought home pizza so that your partner doesn't have to cook. I know that kind of doesn't really sound like a gift, but it is. It's just about those things that you thought, like, I just really knew that you had a really hard day, and so I didn't want you to have to worry about cooking, and so I brought home pizza, right? Like, that is actually a gift. Like, you're giving your partner a gift. And also, sometimes it's like sacrificing something, a little bit, like that's the what it can feel like. You're giving yourself to your partner. Okay. Acts of service is another one of the languages, which again is really, as you're kind of, if you haven't heard of these before, as I'm listing them, you'll start to become more aware of the people in your life, friends, family, partners, kids, whatever. You'll start to see, what people's love languages are when you really start to pay attention to the things that they do. So acts of service is like, cleaning up the dishes, or cooking meals, or cleaning the house, or they, your partner while you were sleeping, took your car and filled it with gas and brought it back, or your partner does your oil changes or cleaned your car, or whatever, like you forgot your lunch and so your partner like drove to your work and brought you your lunch. Acts of service are just exactly that, like acts of showing their love for you, and they don't have to be, again, these grand gestures. They can just be simple little things. And so I receive love by words of affirmation, but I give of acts of service. That can happen. You can give in one language and receive in another, and you'll always have a primary, and then there's usually a secondary. So my primary is words of affirmation, and my secondary is acts of service. And then you'll have like two that are just, or three that are just really not high on the ranking, right? Like you'll always have that one and then kind of the second one. And some people just have like one that just stands out all the time. But more commonly you have like your one main one and then kind of a secondary one, which we often see. So acts of service, like, you make a list of things that your partner regularly, if your partner regularly kind of bugs you about these things that they ask you to do and help them with, acts of service could be you doing one of those things each week without being asked, right? Like it's so simple. It's so simple, acts of service. I mean, they're all simple, but it's just kind of getting into the habit of it. And as you continue to do it more and more, and you see the reaction coming back, it becomes so much easier to do. Okay, and so the next one is physical touch. And people often think that sex is a love language, but it's not. Sex is just a human need. Yes, it's how babies are made, but it's also just a human need. And this is not included in the love languages, but physical touch is. So physical touch is holding hands, cuddling, a touch on their back when you walk by them, a kiss on the cheek, just like physical touch, right? Being touched. Some people need, that close connection, cuddling in bed, cuddling on the couch, holding hands when you're walking down the street. And some people, it's a little bit harder for them. And so you might have to, when it comes to these, like I said before, step out of your comfort zone a little bit. And that's just what it means to be in relationships, is we have to compromise. We have to kind of flow, and we have to be willing to do things for our partner that they need. And that's kind of what this is about. If you're not able to kind of give that to a partner who desires physical touch as their language, then make sure to just be, open and honest about that. This is one that people can be left feeling rejected. And so if it's not really your love language and you're working on it, communicate that. And, if you have had it's been a stressful day or something happened, and you're just not feeling able to do that for a partner, then just, again, communicate it. You can say that, because of these things, I'm just not feeling like I can be physically touching right now. I just need some time. I love you. I appreciate you. And that's just the way it is. And that's okay. You're allowed. Obviously, it's your body. You're allowed to set the boundaries. But physical touch can be a really hard one, because some people are really not physical touch and some people are really physical touch. So just because this is not your love language doesn't mean it can't work. I just am reading some of my notes, because the physical touch one is it's a big one. When I talk about consent a lot, and we obviously hear about consent a lot, especially right now, which is really fabulous. So, it's not a bad idea, especially if your partner is not necessarily having physical touch high on their list, that, we can just ask, is it okay for me to touch you in this way, right? That obviously stands, asking consent for that stuff, understanding what your partner's boundaries are, and that, in the situation, that what you want to do is appropriate. obviously first a certain kind of touch in public places and that kind of thing might not be appropriate, right? You just have to be able to have a conversation, but sometimes it's simply just sitting close to the partner, you know, holding hands, but just like being close, right? It's being close, touching under the table, you know, at dinner, or when you're out to dinner, simple little things like that. But it also can be really great things like massage. Those are great ways to meet your partner's needs that are physical touch is their language, okay? You know, when your partner is stressed out, it is important to, again, remember to communicate with them and talk to them about it and what they need. Some people who are physical touch, when they're stressed out, they really need that touch, and some don't. Like if physical touch is not yours and it's your partner's, then you really need to communicate that, okay? I know that I cannot talk about communication enough. It's super huge. Yeah, so what I will do is I will, I might load this up as a document. I have this as a document, but I might also just I think what I'll do is in the comments below, I will post the link for the quiz, and it's super quick. You just take it and it will give you your love language right away, and then your partner can do it. There's one for kids, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. There's one for children, there's one for teenagers. It's really fabulous. They're very easy reads and they're really worth it. You can gain a lot of perspective from these books, and yeah, I just think they're fabulous. So feel free to check them out. You can buy them on Amazon, and I will link the test in the comments, okay? Again, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, just post them below or send me a message. Not a big deal. I'm happy to help, and any other questions or requests or topics that you want discussed, I'm always open. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a fabulous week. Bye.